Currently, brigatinib is not approved post-alectinib. However, there is a rationale in clinical trial data to support the use of brigatinib post-alectinib. There were two clinical trials presented at ASCO this year. One that I participated in that was brigatinib post any second-generation inhibitor. In that study, which is still ongoing, we presented preliminary results with a response rate of approximately 40%. There was a second study, somewhat larger, from France, where patients had to have 2 prior ALK inhibitors, which would include a next-generation inhibitor. And in that clinical trial, they showed a similar response rate, slightly better, of approximately 50%. And so there's clear rationale from 2 independent trials for the use of brigatinib post-alectinib or other second-generation inhibitors in this setting. Brigatinib overall is very well tolerated. It has some similar toxicities and some very unique toxicities. So first, thinking about the unique toxicity, in the initial trials of brigatinib, it was observed that patients had shortness of breath and pulmonary toxicities, these transient opacities and shortness of breath that would occur within the first few days or week of dosing. In the initial clinical trials, that was estimated at about 7%. In later trials, that's decreased to approximately 3%. So it's rare, but an important side effect to be aware of. And that's what led to the unique dosing schedule of 90 milligrams for the first week, followed by 180 milligrams following this. And that may have actually led to the decrease in incidence of these pulmonary toxicities. So I think the important thing to note is to warn our patients that if they get short of breath, they need to call their doctor and be evaluated. However, if they're fine during that first week of 90 milligrams, then they can escalate to the 180 milligrams with safety. Other toxicities, there can be CPK elevation and muscle aches with this. That's actually similar to alectinib. There are GI toxicities with almost all of the ALK inhibitors, but usually those are quite manageable. And as with most tyrosine kinase inhibitors, fatigue is a side effect that can occur not only with ALK inhibitors, but also EGFR inhibitors and others. Specifically regarding the pulmonary events, so these have been termed EOPS, EOPES, or early onset pulmonary events. And again, these have been observed at a higher frequency in the early trials when 180 milligrams was initiated. They were reduced by using this staggered dosing of 90 milligrams followed by 180 milligrams. So it's important for both physicians, nurses, and the patients to be aware that if they become short of breath, they need to call their physician immediately, hold the dose, and be evaluated, because this could be a sign of one of these early onset pulmonary events. The good news is, too, that typically if they're not having significant breathing problems, that these will also resolve within a day or two, and patients can resume dosing. Fortunately, patients who are ALK positive can experience a very good quality of life compared to older therapies such as chemotherapy. But even considering different TKIs, one important feature of brigatinib is that it showed not only an improvement of progression-free survival in the early analysis, but also an improvement of quality of life metrics compared to crizotinib, which itself is a very well-tolerated drug. And so I think this is an important thing for patients to understand. And I think most patients and physicians understand that in general, these tyrosine kinase inhibitors have far better tolerability and improvement in quality of life compared to chemotherapy. But again, even thinking about that, brigatinib is more tolerable and it leads to better quality of life than crizotinib. So not just improved progression-free survival and hopefully overall survival, but quality of life as well.